Honorable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee, who favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that we perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, and our members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, and through the labors of this land and people will be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision for our country, fair as a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people, and a love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality, and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of beauty, Ghana and Africa. Amen. Members, rules and proceedings. 24th June. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the rules and proceedings are accepted as true record for the proceedings. Official report. Dated 3rd June. Any corrections, please? Honorable ABLAKWA.
First, go to Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, please add column 020, the third paragraph. PricewaterhouseCoopers should be captured correctly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Any other corrections, please? Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the rules and proceedings, the official report of 3rd June is hereby adopted as full record of the proceedings. Honorable members, urgent question for the Minister of Health, of Finance. There's an official communication by the Minister of Finance who will not be able to attend to answer the question today and has asked for rescheduling. So we'll proceed to Minister for Health. Yes, sorry, Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I know that you have moved to the Minister for Health. It's true that some correspondence came in. I saw the table with the Majority Leader Business Committee in respect of the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Speaker, my urge is that the correspondence should get to you early in time, not just when we are about to begin proceedings. Then a letter comes to say that a particular site is unavailable. We accept legitimate excuses, but the communication to you for that excuse must be timely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Majority Leader, can you tell us something about it? 3II.
Speaker, my attention has been drawn to the communication from the Minister of Health in respect of question listed as 3II, and also another correspondence from the Chief Director of the Minister of Health. Then there's also another correspondence from the Minister of Finance. As the Minority Leader is alluding, Speaker, I came to serve with a copy of the correspondence just this morning. So, position to speak to it very much, except to observe that in respect of the question listed for the Minister of Health, Speaker, last week we all came to know his own health status. So he pleaded that he be allowed to return. And it is the reason why I said to that when he moves, I guess I'll have the communication, and then we would program for the minister to be here with us at the appropriate time. Certainly, the question has come to be listed. It didn't have my approval, or should I even come to my attention. So, Speaker, we will have to reprogram these two questions, the urgent questions. I'll have to touch the two ministers for us to know exactly when. I should think that tomorrow may not be appropriate. So we'll have to allocate them to the program of activities for next week. But I'll have to touch base with the two ministers, and then we'll see, because it didn't register on the radar of the business committee this morning. So we'll see what to do, Speaker.
Thank you very much.
There should be no difficulty. As I recall, it was your own directive in respect of the health of this question to be rescheduled. And therefore, if the leader is still asking them, we can live with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The table office should please take steps to schedule. Kindly don't for tomorrow, but make sure that you are in touch with the appropriate authority to ensure that when this comes on, business is place. Thank you. At the commencement of public business, item listed 5, Honorable Majority Leader.
The Speaker, so I can do item 5A. I can do 5A.
Performance report in respect of the Food and Drugs Authority for the period January to December 2019.
The paper is duly presented and is referred to the Public Accounts Committee for consideration and report. B. Mines and Energy Chairman.
Speaker, I guess we may have to stand that one down. you may have to stand 5B now.
The report is not available yet.
Also 5C.
C is not available too.
5B, 5C.
5D.
5B and 5C. We stand the two down. 5B, 5C.
Yes. And so 5D. The 5D is two down. Well, so item letter 6.
Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee is there. I don't know whether he can brief us about the status and if he has to lay the report in respect of 5. He is there.
Chairman of the committee, item listed 5D.
Report of the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs on the Conduct of Public Officers Bill 2018.
The report is duly dated and is for distribution to honorable members. Honorable Judge, you have an indication?
The Speaker, the chairman of the Finance Committee is not here to take us through motion listed as item number 6.
So, sorry. In the meantime, can we receive our special visit?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. So
I'm not used to keeping medical people waiting.
Yes, we will have to suspend sitting. We'll have to suspend sitting and move to a committee of the whole, for us to receive our visitors, who will be briefing us on way forward for us, Parliament, staff and officers of the House, including the Speaker, the journalists with whom we work on the. So, Mr. Speaker, we'll break into a committee of the whole and invite our august visitors, the coordinator, the national coordinator of the COVID-19 pandemic team, to hear from them the best way for us as the House. So, Speaker, I'll plead that we are the journalists, including the television camera persons, to all be here, because at the end of the day, the nation to hear, they have to tell us, and by necessary inference, also what advice they have for the nation. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Yes, Speaker, you provided guidance on this matter, and therefore I only can pray that relax our rules to allow for a section of the staff to be
a section of
senior staff. You have to relax our rule for a section of the staff, either say senior staff or appropriate, to join us in that briefing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, thank you very much. In this case,
by way of adding to it, maybe I should have stated so. The top management in the House is in the region of about 27. The management about 27 in that figure. The Speaker, that number of few. So we're asking that all senior staff, all senior should be with us when we move into a committee of the whole. I guess for purposes of social distancing, they may populate the public gallery, and in order for us to listen to the august visitors.
but representatives of the junior staff too can be here. I would read that the clerk should use his discretion to let us have a representation of members of staff here, both senior, junior, and so on. Of course, we are going to ensure that there's no crowding. And then we are relaxing the rules accordingly. I admit them all now into the house for them not to be strangers. And that is the end of the matter. We can have briefing because this is a matter of general national importance. And if others here, the better for us all. So they should come. They should start pouring in. I have to calm down. Honorable members, at this juncture, spend sitting briefly and then into committee and start again. You may know where you are, it's just a formality. Sitting is suspended accordingly. At which time we'll move into committee. Honorable members. Order. Order. Honorable members, staff, and invited workers, we have allowed you into this special committee of the whole to have a briefing on these unusual times here this morning. And for that matter, we have Dr. Nefi Asamwaba, Presidential Coordinator of the National COVID Response Team, Dr. Anthony Nsia Asari, Presidential on Health, and our own Dr. Prince Pambo here in Parliament. We are grateful to them for finding the time to come and talk to and with us to understand the full parameters as much as possible of this pandemic, and also for us to be well schooled. As members of Parliament, we are opinion leaders, and it's your duty to brief your people anytime you are with them. It therefore requires that you obtain as much information as possible in this matter. Even right now, I'll please advise that let us observe social distance. I've seen a couple not really doing it. Please do it now. Kindly let us. It's itself an encouragement to our visitors and a good example to our people we represent, so that they also learn from their chosen representatives. Therefore, without any further ado, I'll hand over matters to the experts. And of course, we'll start with our Dr. Pambo, who will lead the process and invite his senior men to talk accordingly. After which, the relevant leaders will also make their remarks. We conclude this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, all honorable members. I want to thank you all for your cooperation so far in the fight against COVID-19. Parliament has done some testing in the past weeks. We tested almost 1,000 people, members of Parliament and staff of Parliament, other workers. We had results from that. The necessary steps were taken to the way such results be managed, and I'm happy to inform the House that all protocols were observed and the necessary things were done appropriately. There was the announcement that a second round of testing could be considered. I thought it important to speak with my superiors here about the need for that and the way forward. They are here as the experts leading the national fight, and they will be addressing the House today as to the way forward, and I believe we will all be leaving here very much equipped to be able to put forward the fight against COVID-19 positively. I believe one of the key things they'll mention would be the protocols we need to observe, because a lot more premium is placed on that versus testing. You could be negative today and test positive tomorrow if you do not take all the cautions needed. So I would humbly hand over the floor to my superiors, and then they will be addressing the House. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament. This morning, I'll just briefly take you through what the situation update is as at midnight 23rd. And then I'm just doing that for you to see how the dynamics and the situation in the country is. As at midnight 23rd June 2020, as a country, we have tested 283,124 persons. And out of that, we have 15,473 positive cases. We have 11,431 people who have recovered and discharged. When it is recovered and discharged, all what it means is that the person is not likely to infect anybody, that is not infectious. And then we have 24 people who were having severe conditions, and critical conditions, we have 6 of them, 4 of them who are on ventilators in the various treatment centers throughout the country. And we have 95 validated. So what it means is that we have 3,947 people who are still under the care, either at home or in isolation centers, or they are in hospitals. So that's the situation that we have in this country. I'm saying this to tell the death is 95. So I'm doing this to tell you that coronavirus or COVID-19 is real. Luckily for us, it hasn't been very devastating as is in other countries. Most of these patients who are positive are from contact tracing. The contact tracing alone, the test we've done is about 183,076. And those who report to hospital, that's the routine surveillance, those who have the virus and they have symptoms and report to hospital, is about 100,048. So if you look at it, the positive from contact from enhanced tracing is 9,346. And from those who get symptoms and go to hospital is 6,327. So what it means is that the people that we contact trace are more than the people who get the symptoms and come. But what we are seeing now is that it's not like before, where we had a lot of patients who don't go through hospitals but are contact traced in their districts. So what it means, we are seeing more relatively people who have symptoms than before. So it means that it's a fight that we should all join. We have what you call local transmission. So it's in the community transmission. And as members of Parliament, I believe that you are the right people to assist in the fight in your various constituencies, because you are the representatives of the people. But we are here this morning to also talk about the testing and also people wanting to have mass testing. And as Dr. Pambo said, if you test and you are negative, it doesn't necessarily mean that tomorrow or 2 days time or 3 or 4 days time when you test, you will still be negative. If you test and you are negative and you don't follow strictly the protocols and you expose yourself, you don't wash your hands, especially the hand hygiene under running water and soap, you don't keep the distance, you don't cover your nose, or you cover your nose with only shield. I've seen some people wearing shield, I think 1 or 2 people. I've seen somebody wearing shield plus nose masks. That's the most important thing. But if you wear shield alone and you are debating, you'll be talking and all the droplets will be dropping on the table that you are standing by. And if your friend or your colleague passes by and takes something, as human beings, we always use our hands to figure of our nose, our ears. You cannot sit down without touching your dish. So as much as possible, I will entreat honorable members that if you want to wear the shield and you are in the house debating, please put on a mask. I always say that mask is a must. If you wear the mask, you wash your hands on the water, running water and soap, and you keep social distancing, you are most unlikely to contact the virus. And you also prevent your neighbor getting the virus. As somebody said, the virus no get less, and human beings will take up. So the virus is just in front of your house. So if you are moving out, make sure that you take your mask and wear it anywhere that you are, where people are. And try as much as possible to give the work social distancing. I will now go straight to the test. I said, if you are not very careful and you start testing, you feel that because you are tested, you are free. But it gives you false hope and false assurance. So it's better that when we want to do a test, we do a very targeted testing. It means if you have come in contact with somebody, the person will by all means mention your name, the district will come to you and then contact and then talk to you and take your sample, and then maybe take all your other contact sample if you are positive. That is the most cost-benefit way that we can make use of the tests that we have in this country. If you continue having the corporate testing, it means those who are sick, who are in the hospital, who need to be tested, have to wait, and it plugs the hospital up, and that's where sometimes people say that the hospitals are overwhelmed. So if you agree with us, I think the first testing has been done. Subsequent testing, let us go straightly according to either you are exposed to somebody or you have signs and symptoms. Luckily, you have a clinic here. Dr. Pambo and his people are there. Anytime you have a problem, just rush to the hospital. And if you have the signs and symptoms which fit into the definition of the case, you'll quickly be tested. And when you are tested and you are found to be positive, then all your contacts will also be tested. That should be the case, and that is how we are doing it. This is the way that we are going. Unfortunately, we haven't had the rapid testing yet because we are continuously trying to allow the Food and Drugs Authority to make sure that any test which comes into the country to be used for rapid tests, which can be used for surveillance purposes, are sensitive to what we are having here. So about a lot of people have brought samples which they are testing. And once we get this very sensitive or future sensitive, we shall use it for, in health, we call it surveillance purposes. So we do general surveillance of it, maybe come to Parliament House and then try to screen people and see if a lot of people have been exposed. If you are exposed to it, you either be positive. We have 2 types of antibodies, the IgM and IgG, to tell you that you have been recently exposed or you have been exposed before but you've passed through the period. If you remember, recently we changed the discharge policy. The fair discharge policy where we have 14 days continuous, if you are asymptomatic, that you don't have symptoms, or if you are in hospital and then you are treated and you are symptom-free, then we have to do 2 tests, conservative tests, to test negative before we declare you as discharged and recovered. That was when the virus started first in China. And it was on the 12th of January, WHO, with the scientific body, brought a recommendation that you have to finish 14 days mandatory treatment or isolation, either in your house or in isolation center, and then you do first test and second test before you are discharged. That time, it was only China that the disease was. But after that, it has moved, the epicenter moved to Europe, it moved to North America, now it has moved to South America. And Africa has its share. So now on the 27th of May, the scientific body and WHO came back after a lot of scientific tests, scientific work being done on the virus, said when somebody is asymptomatic, after 10 days, it's most unlikely that the person is infective. They've seen the virus still being positive in stools after about 2 months, 3 months. But they realize when it's cultured, it doesn't infect. So after studying it and then situating it onto a Ghanaian situation, because we've also seen that a lot of people, after the first test negative, second test negative, about 99.something% of the people don't test positive again. So we have adopted the WHO recommendation on the 27th of May. That's the reason why now, after 2 weeks of self-isolation or isolation center of asymptomatic patients, as patients without symptoms, then they are declared as discharged and recovered, meaning that they are no more infective to the community. Go home. If you have symptoms and you are admitted or put on treatment, after 10 days, and then you are negative or you are not symptomless for the next 3 days, then you also declare that you are also recovered and discharged. Take the 10 days. We even added 4 days to it to make assurance double sure. So that's the reason why we have now used that protocol, and this is why we are discharged and recovered. It means that you are discharged from the hospital like you have malaria, and you go to hospital and then you go home and maybe see your doctor later. So this virus is still an evolving condition. So we are now learning. Nobody can tell you that he knows all about coronavirus as we speak now. It's evolving virus. Viruses are like have changed their behavior from time to time. So this is how it is, and we have to be very careful, and everybody has to play and make sure that and everybody has to make sure that we don't have the virus taken from wherever it's supposed to be taken that to your houses and to your workplaces. If you all that and join together, we can defeat this virus, and I'm sure we can defeat it in the shortest possible time. But as of now, we are doing very well as a country. Africa has been blessed that we don't have the disease killing everybody. Like at first, when it started, modeling which came out, everybody thought that by now, about 3 million people in Ghana will be infected. But that is not what we see. It is a virus which has come. It's a virus which is not so debilitating and disaster as we are seeing in other places. So, honorable members, honorable speaker, that is what the nature of the disease is. But this morning, we've come here to explain this is how it is in the country, and we hope and believe that as the leaders and then honorable members and you control the whole country in the constituencies, you assist us to be able to fight the virus or the COVID-19 disaster in the country. Because if you join us, we need to improve and also up our health education, especially at the community level. Unfortunately, or fortunately, what we have seen, the virus is more in the 4 main regions in this country: Greater Accra, Ashanti. Recently, Western has taken the 3rd position, and the Central is the 4th position, the Eastern region. We have seen that if you go to the Northern regions, apart from Upper East, where recently there was testing of some police recruits at Talensi, Upper East has been, and the Northern region, Northeast, Upper West, and Savannah regions have not been so disastrous as it is. If you look at the 3 regional program of regions, also it's not too much there. But it is mostly Greater Accra, Ashanti. It is also, we know why it is so, because that's where there's a lot of movement of people. And then even in the regions, it's also more in the regional capitals. That's where we have concentration of people. If you go to where the mining towns are, it's also more. For example, Western region is more in the mining towns. Western is also in the mining towns. So those of you who are the MPs in those areas, help us educate the people, make sure that everybody who is going out at least takes a mask. And if you can, you put also a sanitizer in your bag. If you go to any place that there's hand washing with soap and water, don't pass by. People are talking about it and they pass. You have to wash your hands. If it's even 20 times a day, do it. And if you all do that together, I believe that very soon the virus will be defeated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nsian Asari. The doctors have agreed among themselves the way we should proceed with business. And the idea now is that we'll invite questions and from us. During which period, both doctors will now answer questions. The spokes doctor has finished. Now they'll answer our questions as they please, whether individually or together. So shall we interrogate the matter? Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Yeah, I want to know, from his presentation, it's obvious that the role of the doctors at the periphery is going to increase because apart from contact tracing, those who are coming through the hospitals have gotten to about 6,000. So I was surprised when the Central Regional Director of Health Services, I saw a letter actually in the social media, purported to have been written by her, that henceforth, if you want to carry out mass testing, you needed a permission from the central government or from the Ghana Health Services, the national authority, before you do that. And I thought there was an increase in the bureaucracy for doctors, whose role is supposed to be increasing. That whatever you want to do, carry out mass testing, you've got to seek permission from the national authority or from the Ghana Health Services in Accra. What is your take on that?
Honorable, we'll take 4 questions in a row, and then the doctors will answer. Yes, Honorable, I recognize you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to find out from the doctors if somebody who have recovered from the virus can get infection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Adam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. May I ask our senior colleagues, with the trend we are seeing, when are we likely to see a picking of this situation?
Thank you. The 4th question for this round. Yes, Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to find out from the doctors whether there's a challenge with the availability of these for medical staff at the hospital. I've read a number of reports that seem to suggest that this is the case, and I want to find out whether that is what it is happening.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Doctors, you may please respond.
Yeah, I will respond to the contact tracing. Yeah, the contact tracing that is being done.
Doctor, at this stage, you may sit, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The contact tracing, that the permission from the Director General is for a very obvious reason. What we want to do, that the Director General in the Ghana Health Service wants to make sure that we know the people who are going for the testing. Because if you are not very careful, every corporate organization, every group of people there say they want to do contact, they want to do testing. But the contact tracing is going on. You don't need permission from anybody to do contact tracing. Immediately, yes, we are, as a country, we are not doing mass testing. That's what I said at the beginning, that, and I think that the PAM also said. If you do mass testing today, will you do mass testing again in 2 weeks' time, in 4 weeks' time, or every 2 days? Because as you are aware, honorable member, when you test today and you are negative, and you go in about 4 days time, every 4 days, because of the incubation period, it can be positive. So do you continue mass testing every day or every week? It is not, there's no cost benefit in that. So if you, that's why I said that we will test, we will contact trace and test. But it is not mass testing which will solve this problem. You do mass testing, and if you know what we did, what Ghana started doing, we started doing contact tracing, enhanced contact tracing, even before some other countries in Europe, for example, in UK, started doing it. So as a country, we are looking also at what resources that we have available. And then if you want to do mass testing, it means almost everywhere that you see, there will be trucks with PCR machines and everything. People will come there, then they all test. I don't think that should be the way that we have to do. The most important thing is to follow the protocols. Once you follow the protocols, you prevent, you make sure that all the precautions are taken. It is more beneficial than mass testing. Mass testing today doesn't mean that if you go there the following day or 2 days' time, you will still test negative if you don't follow the precautions. So that's what we are doing as a country. We are using the resources that we have to get the most cost benefits from it, not to just do mass testing because we want to do mass testing. So the education, the protocol following is the most important thing. So that is how. Maybe I'll leave that as somebody also has something.
Thank you very much. One question: if you are declared recovered, can you get the infection a second time? The way this disease works is when you get the infection, you develop some immunity. So that immunity helps you so that you don't get reinfected. What is not known is how long the immunity lasts. But now we know that at least it lasts for 6 months. But whether beyond the 6 months it wanes, we know from experience that this type of viruses, it wanes over time. And that is why, for example, for flu, you need a jab every year. So the simple answer really is that if you are recovered, at least you are free for the next 6 months. The question was linked with, given the trend, we think it will peak. And really the truth answer is, I don't know. This is a really tricky business, and it's very easy to misquote somebody. The trend is still going up, and it's very difficult to really say in a matter of, I need a prophet to be able to do that. The third question was related, are we still having challenges with PPEs? And the answer is yes.
And maybe I'll continue for the PPEs. The answer is yes. If you are working in a hospital, the consumables are something that you use every day. So today you may have about 100 PPEs in the hospital. If you have about 50 patients, it means you use the 150 out of the 100. So you need to replenish it. But the good news is that most of the PPEs that the hospitals need are being manufactured in this country. most of them, like the coveralls, like the mask that we are all wearing, some people are wearing, are all being manufactured in the country. The ones that we don't manufacture, we are also competing with other countries in the procurement. So they are being distributed. We have managed to improve the distribution of the PPEs by using the military distribution system. So it's continuously been given, and we are also making sure that we are monitoring the use of the PPEs, and wherever it's supposed to be, sometimes the PPEs are not in the facilities, but they may be at the regional medical. So people are following up to make sure that the regional medical source sends these PPEs at where they needed to be. And then using our Ghana Logistics Management Information System at Ghana Health Service. If you sit behind your laptop or a PC, the regional director should be able to know where PPEs are short and quickly replenish whatever they have. So it will continuously be hearing here and there that there's lack of PPE in this one institution and the other, and quickly they are replenished. And luckily, a lot of the PPEs are being manufactured in the country and they are being distributed as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Doctors. Yes. Honorable.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, we are always advised to respect the protocols with regards to social distancing, wearing of masks, and so on and so forth. Last Saturday, our colleagues in MPP went to the polls to elect parliamentary candidates with a promise to adhere to the protocols. We all saw what happened after the results were announced. Now, Electoral Commission is programming.
Order. Honorable members, I was about to make, if you could please resume your seat for now. I was about to proceed these proceedings movement that let us stick to the purpose for which these renowned experts are here. If we want to make critique on what other arms of government are doing, let us adopt other parameters. Honorable members, there must be a time when we can discuss certain things beyond a certain level. I will plead, let us not descend to a level that we all know very well things can descend to. I thank you very much. Honorable ABLAKWA.
Most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to find out from the distinguished medical doctors the matter to do with WHO recommendations. Is Ghana conducting its own independent Ghana-specific research like other countries are doing? When you read the literature on COVID-19, you notice that the UK, France, Italy, Germany, they are not necessarily just adopting WHO because sometimes the virus is mutating, they have their own contextual differences and all of that. And WHO itself, I remember the debate about face mask. They thought it was not too necessary, and then they changed their position and all of that. So are we conducting Ghana-specific research to guide policy making moving forward? And will, if you are doing that, will it be published so that we can all know exactly how our case compares to other countries and not necessarily following the WHO matters? The other question is with our schools, the reopening of schools. There are now reports of, confirmed cases. Are we going to see a situation where, like it happened in France, South Korea, where they had to take a second look and the schools were closed again for other measures to be implemented? So that's it. And finally, the financial situation. Do we have adequate resources to combat this? Because this is a house that approves the budget and all of that. So if you think we should make a case on the executive to provide more funds, we will be happy to know. But if you are fine with resources, then we also will move along. And we commend you for all the strides you are making. We know it is not an easy war. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to humbly request to know if we have any information about our herbal medicinal, research centers working towards with the medical team. There's some data about where we are in terms of herbal medical. Thank you very much.
Honourable Yirichi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I expected to hear about treatment centers and also the issue of reagents and things for the tests, whether they have sufficient materials for the testing, where the treatment centers are, since you want us to be part of the education to our constituents. Where are these located? Are they all operational? The laboratories that were recently also added, how effectively are they working? And finally, if you look at the issue of information flow, the education, this issue that we raised about whether immunity will last for long or not ought to be one of the guiding principles, because we all don't know. The difficulty of this whole pandemic is that very little is known about it. Mounting plenty education on people to appreciate the difficulty. We seem to be looking at the death rate as a determining factor, but we need to let our people be realistic about the condition, the way the disease is, so that they will be caught by circumstances to follow the protocols. This is what I think should happen. But we needed this information for us to be guided as to, is there a delay? Is there a delay again in releasing results? Because when the results are from different places going to another place, for instance, if it is from Upper going to Tamale, you expect delays. But if it is within Accra or Kumasi, should we still have delays in releasing this result? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I just want to know, well, I'm a member of the team, so really I don't want to ask a question, but if they could brief us on the vaccine front, what is happening? Because really the most feasible intervention for corona is a vaccine. Otherwise, we'll be moving in circles. And then also, their comment on this phenomenon. I noticed that the epicenter is moving from continent to continent. You see, move from Asia, that's China, then to Europe, then to North America. Now it's in South America. Are we sure that we can be that small in Africa? It looks like the continent left, if you count Australia as part of the Asian continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our guests will now answer, and then we'll move on to the next set of questions. We've had 4.
I want to respond to the question, are we just following what WHO says, given that it's not always right, and it's our and decisions being influenced by local research? And the answer is yes. Recently, there was a revised policy on discharge policy where WHO recommended 10 days. Our work, local work done in Ghana East suggested that 10 days is rather risky for us, and based on the work we've done in Ghana East, that we decided that let's go for 14 days. But I think your key advice is that if there are local research, we need to make that more public so that people are more aware as the basis of some of these policy guidelines and decisions. So we take that on board. The other issue is, the other question was related to vaccines. My colleague will talk about the lab. And where is the world in terms of vaccine development, given that vaccine is one way to address this disease? This is one area where there's been considerable progress, and there are at least, as I speak today, about 12 what we call vaccine candidates that are progressing quite well. The problem with development is that it takes you through a number of stages. You first have to test it in the lab, test it on guinea pigs and monkeys before you test it human being in a small way and a big way. Most of the 12 I talked about are at the level of testing in human beings. And after that, you then test in bigger populations. So there is a lot of promise that in the next 6 to 8 months, there will be some vaccines available. The problem is that these vaccines are going to be available for the whole world, and most likely for countries like us, who may be at the bottom of the queue. So we have been actively involved in some of the discussion and studies so that we don't get at the end of the queue. There are even plans that Ghana makes not wait for donation, that we put forward a proposal that we are prepared to buy some of the vaccines so that we are considered by some of the private companies working on this and not wait for a donation. My colleague will talk a little about the labs. The question was, how are the labs that we added on to Noguchi and the lab in Kumasi, how are they faring? Are they contributing the testing capacity?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, the labs, we now have 10 labs. We have Noguchi, we have KCCR in Kumasi, we have also in the north, we have TAMALE lab, and we have also the TAMALE veterinary lab. And down south, we have University of Allied Health Sciences in Ho. In Accra, we have the veterinary service and the Center for Scientific Industrial Research Labs. And in Takoradi, we have also the veterinary lab also working. Recently, we have also come out of guidelines for private sector participation in testing. And I know at least one private sector who is ready to test. And they are going through the guidelines and sign a memorandum of understanding with Ghana Health Service to start testing. I'm sure by next Monday, you'll also go in full testing. So if you add all together, there will be 11 labs, that's 10 public health labs, and also the private lab also be working. And I know 3 private labs also want to start testing. In fact, when they start testing, it will take a lot of listen on people who, the corporate organizations who want to have testing of their people. And then at the same time, we also have about 130 gene expert machines throughout the whole country. What we need to do, which we are doing, I know that by next week or so, the gene expert materials will be in. They are all at the former TB treatment centers. The gene expert for the TB testing can also be used for coronavirus or some in isolation. The care also becomes a problem because you may need a cardiologist to go and see, but because he's suspected and nobody knows, it becomes a problem. So that's the labs. And the logistics for the labs are continuously being replenished. As I speak, I think next week we are getting a large consignment of the lab. That's the kits, plus the pipettes, plus the tubes and everything, which will last us for about 3 months. At the moment, we are doing approximately about 20,000 tests a week. If you all realize, Ghana is about the second or so, third country that a lot of testing are being done, apart from South Africa, who has done over 1.2 or 3 million tests. Ghana has done, and then vitamin C, and if you have some pains, you are given a painkiller. And there are new drugs which are coming into the system. They are all on the treatment protocol, like the anti-viral drug. So if the need be and the patient needs it, is given to the patient. A few patients are also supported either by invasive or non-invasive ventilation at our centers where there are ventilators and other things. We have about 71 treatment centers scattered around the country. Almost every regional hospital is a treatment center. All the teaching hospitals are treatment centers for severe and critical cases so that they can do invasive ventilation and non-invasive ventilation. We are also adding more treatment centers. And the most important thing is also to get isolation centers for those who we isolate, who cannot treat or isolate themselves in their houses. And that is what we are doing. If you know, the Catholic Church has offered all their centers throughout the country for isolation. The Pentecost Church gave us about 1,000-room accommodation at Nyanyam, where we are keeping Greater Accra and some Eastern region and Central region positive cases. And we also have the Pampram, where we are also keeping cases. And throughout the region, they also have some isolation centers, especially the high burden regions like Greater Accra, Ashanti, have also isolation places at where they are. And all these things, the resources, as you rightly said, Honorable Member, I think we continuously be changing the budget. And when the need be, we discuss it at the level of the fund, and the Honorable Minister for Finance will come to the House, and then maybe if he asks for more resources, our members will graciously be support, and then we have a lot of resources. Because we have to make sure that we return to our normal life, social life, economic life, like before. But either we like it or not, we are not in normal times. And now we have new normals. Either we like it or not, we continue doing the protocols that we are doing for some time. And more importantly, as we go even towards the elections, so we have to strengthen the process more to make sure that people do the right things, and then we have things done properly. Education and communication, that's what I said at the beginning. The risk communication education, we will do it together with honorable members. Because you are the community. You know the people. So anytime honorable members go to their constituencies, please have a word with the people. Because people think that this disease is Accra and disease. But people move, honorable members move Accra to your constituencies. And the dangerous people to work with are the people who are around us. You don't know when you close, where they go to, and when they come back. So the education will be done by all of us. We have also doing a lot of education of the Information Service Division of Ministry of Education, and also of the National Civic NCCE. And we have a very strong risk communication team at the Ghana Health Service, which is working together with the Ministry of Information to give the right information. So the materials for the right information are there, and I'm very thankful to also the media and the pressmen and presswomen that they are also doing their best. There are a lot of role plays. I've seen people who have done, especially stigmatization, to make sure that people understand that if you are COVID-19 coronavirus positive, it doesn't mean you are an outcast. If you go to other parts of the world, when they are discharged, even COVID-19. So we encourage all of them that they are putting their lives at stake. And once, I think, let us make sure that we appreciate whatever they are doing. We will all be part of the communication, risk communication and education that we are doing in the communities. And it's more in the communities. Where we don't have it, we don't want it to get there. So let them know that as much as possible, they should be able to protect themselves. I think I've answered the rest of the question. The schools. Yes, if you realize, you see, when the easing of the restrictions were done strategically and also in the phased approach. The reason we don't want to open all the schools and come back like it happened in the US and Italy and other places. That's the reason why, if you realize, we thought about it and then advised the presidency that, look, don't let us allow everybody to go to school. As much as possible, we should be able to practice social distancing in the schools. The most important people who should go to school are the people who are in school. Because those who are exiting the tertiary institutions, the senior high schools, and the JHS, let them. And we added the gold track because the green track have already gone to finish a semester. So the gold track should also go and finish the semester. And the rest of them will continue doing the e-learning that they are doing on the televisions and also digitally. If you look at kindergarten, nursery to about P3, they learn by playing. You cannot give a nursery child or a kindergarten or class 1 child a mask to wear. Immediately he reaches the school and a friend is wearing another colored mask, they will exchange the mask. The bullies among them will take the mask and spit into it and ask the other one to wear it. And if you realize, most of flu-like illness, people who bring flu-like illness home are the children. If you are going to get flu, it's your child, the nurse, they bring it. So that's the reason why we said that let them continue the learning from the TVS, and then we watch to the next academic year and let them all be promoted to go to the next class. Luckily, the universities, even not all of them are in school, because some of them have finished their exams. And they are also completing. Those who could not do the learning on digitally are now at the campus. So far, we haven't heard anything untoward. All the social media news that we got to go ahead. Some of them we have investigated. Some of them were even positive before they went to school. The one that we heard that he was positive, we understand that the mother even went and said he has tested positive. And then it became news. So I follow it closely. So far, so good. The problem that we may have are the day students, especially in the cities, Accra, where they don't have any boarding houses, because in school, the teachers and the heads of the schools have been controlling them. But when they get out of the school compound, because we've seen someone we are driving around that they've removed their mask. But when they enter the school, they do all the protocols before they go to class and before they leave. So I think I've exhausted all the questions. Thank you.
Find out, as a country, do we really have an emergency preparedness and response plan that is a public document? Just like when you want it for WHO, you can go and take it. That is reviewed periodically as and when is needed. And I asked Mr. Speaker because somewhere in March, April, we met the Committee on Health through the able chairmanship of Dr. Kim Nwama, met the very team. And we asked for Ghana's emergency preparedness and response plan that looks at pre-pandemic, intra-pandemic, and post-pandemic. We were promised that it was a document and that they were going to come back to the committee to give us that
by Dr. Isiaso, related to midnight 23rd June. Is it the case that you don't have, today is 25th, is it the case that you don't have up to 24th June? That's number one. Number two, the issue about the building of one's antibodies and the fact that if one tests positive and recovers, chances are that he may be positioned not to contract the disease within say, the next 6 months. It's not the case that in both Japan and China, people who contracted this and were managed, later retested and tested negative, recontracted within about 3 months. There are instances. So were there exceptional cases, or is it the case that as we move, the world is managing better? Because you mentioned 6 months when the record indicates them. Within 3 months, we contracted the disease. The third question is a revised one to the question posed by the minority chief in respect of the frequency of tests. Would you advise that once we visit the constituency and intermingle with constituents, maybe of back, it may be prudent to do another test if you've already tested negative. So if you did that within 1 week or maybe within 2 weeks, once we went intermingled with colleagues and then came back, is it the case? Would you advise that we submit ourselves to another test? Finally, with respect to what information that we pass in the chamber, when we suggested that there could be a third testing for those of them who have not submitted themselves yet, is it your advice that the mass testing we have been doing here, we should move away from that and do individual private testing in the regard of the issues that we have raised?
Thank you very much. Now our distinguished doctors will give us the last brief and close.
Honorable Speaker, I will start from the testing. I said that the testing will still be done if signs of anything that you believe that maybe you have come in contact with somebody or you are actually come in contact with a positive patient, you can come and do the test. I think even for the good of even the house, coming here and then saying that we are going to do mass testing for everybody, immediately you say that our friends from the media would like to know the results. If I'm one of them, when you mention it here, I will follow up and find out who are positive or not. That brings even more stigmatization. So I believe that honorable members want to test, they can still go through the medical health team and do their test without making it you want to test. Unless you want to test and maybe you help us with stigmatization. If I'm positive, I said I'm now positive, but I'm still alive, and maybe I'm negative now, and I'm still walking around. So the testing will go on, but I don't think that it should be a whole mass testing for everyone. But if you've gone to your constituency and come back, and you mingle with somebody that you have heard is already signs and symptoms and coughing, you are in contact. So it means you can go and test. But the whole idea is that if you test today, it doesn't mean that if you test 2 days or 3 days later, you may not be positive. Most important is first observe the protocols. Even at the constituency level, if you observe the protocols, they will all follow you. Because you are wearing your mask, you are meeting them, you are washing your hands, you are using sanitizer and all this, and they will know that that is what my MP is doing, and then they will all follow it. But doing mask, if you are not very careful, how many times do you do it in a year? Is it every 6 months? Is it every 4 months? As Dr. Saraba said, maybe you can also look at the immunity and say that 6 months, let's do it every 6 months. But I believe that if you do the cost-benefit analysis, it may not be the most beneficial thing to do. You can do the test, and I would advise you do it between you and the health team. It will be better that way. The stigma, the deaths and the validation. The deaths that you give here are the deaths which may, of collected from all the hospitals. And then the case management look at it and look at if it has been, in medicine we call something audit. Every death in every hospital is audited. Look at the causes of the death and make sure that we don't repeat, maybe if there was a problem here and left and then the treatment which was given, and we use the same lessons learned to treat other patients. So once it's validated, it is added to the death. I think in our own report, if you go to the website, so sometimes we list the regions. It's the hospitals you don't list which hospitals are. Maybe it's a very good advice that you're saying, so that we can then see that hospital A had 3 deaths, but we cannot bring the names of the patients. We can bring the ages and then especially morbidities to make sure that people know that if you have hypertension, diabetes, in fact, hypertension and diabetes are the main causes of that we are seeing. If you have coronavirus or COVID-19 and you are hypertensive, it pushes you out of range, and then if you are not very careful, you lose your life. Somebody who has no comorbidity, only very few of them succumb to the coronavirus. That's the reason why if you have any underlying illness, please your doctor and make sure that you are checked so that if you have any coronavirus, you can also make sure that you don't get any problems from it. But we are also realizing those who have it and go to hospital early, especially those with other underlying illnesses, get well. Even if you go to the intensive care unit, when we look at the literature, about 57 people who went to the intensive care unit, we were able to save about 51 of them. They all got well and went home. But those who didn't and came, those who died between, in fact, about 80% of the people who died between 24 to first 48 hours. So it means they delayed at home before coming. You rightly said that we don't even know in the rural areas how many people are married if they are COVID. But we also are aware that Ghana Health Service health system structure make sure that even those who die at home, we use something we call oral autopsy. So the community health nurses and the disease control people normally go to the house to ask what the patient has died. So we haven't heard anyone capturing anything which is like, but we shall take also note of it in Ghana Health Service to make sure that they look at it and make sure they do the right thing. And I think I've talked about the repeated this and the contact tracing. Yes, I remember when we locked down Accra and Kumasi metropolis, there were about, in Kumasi, we added about 3,000 contact tracers who were volunteers. We picked those health workers who were not working to do the contact tracing. They were the people who were given the 100 Ghana cedis per day. They were not on salary. After the lifting of the lockdown, the districts started using their own system. They used the community health nurses and disease control people to do contact tracing. Kumasi region and some of the regions kept of them. And they then negotiated with them how much they can pay because it was no more under their budget. So as we speak now, there is no contact tracer who is in the system. All those who are doing the contact tracing are the staff of Ghana Health Service. So that's the difference. So it's not nobody has gone on strike because it doesn't like the money. Most of them were asked to go. Those who wanted to stay, they were negotiated with them and started paying them. So the contact tracing is still going on, but it's done mainly by the Ghana Health Service staff. So that's what I can say about the contact tracing. I'll leave the rest to Dr. Sawamba. Or the herd immunity. Honorable Majority Speaker, yes, the literature says 6 months. But you see, in medicine, nothing is 100%. If you say something is good, you look at the p-value. If you look at it, plus or minus 5%, then we say that yes, 6 months, you can have herd immunity for 6 months. So it doesn't mean somebody may not be reinfected, maybe 1 or 2 people within 3 months. That's the reason that when you are even recovered and discharged, you don't just stop doing the necessary protocols. If that's the case, it means that if I get the research, then I have to go around, I won't get it again. Because this is a novel disease. We haven't learned everything about it. So we move with caution to make sure that we don't just leave and say, oh, you take it that we may be reinfected again, and that is good. Because I'm sure in about December or so, there will be a lot of research which have been done, and then we can say with authority that this is what we're supposed to do. But the prayer is that we get the vaccine, and once we get the vaccine, everybody will go for a jump. If you remember, in Europe and America, when they are coming, everybody for flu jab. Because the viral illness, especially respiratory viral illness, most of the time, even the vaccine that they give is for a period of about a year. It doesn't last for long. Not like yellow fever where you have it and then you don't go for it again. So these are some of the things that we have learned from it. But I believe we are not doing badly. The epicenter, as a honorable member said, is moving from continent to continent to continent. I have a very strong belief in my heart that it will move to Africa. So we're going to end in South America, and then we get the vaccines, and then we move forward with our lives. Thank you. I hope I've answered almost all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, Doctor, any concluding comments? Doctor, as a mother, any concluding
The body's sleeping.
Yeah.
Sleeping with the mask. The body's sleeping with the mask. The pandemic preparedness. Yes, we have a pandemic preparedness. I was in Ghana Health Service. It's prepared. Maybe we'll ask the Ghana Health Service, the Ministry of Health. There's a document like that. That's the document we use to start in January, when the pandemic started in Wuhan. And then we started the emergency operations of a system. So we have a pandemic and emergency preparedness plan in place. I think we will ask the ministry and Ghana Health Service.
If Dr. Samuel wants to final statement,
Honorable, thank you for this opportunity to interact with you. I think one of the messages coming from this conversation is it may be a useful thing to do to have some regular interactions so to share not only what the plans are, but where the strategy is, some of the challenges we are having, and how you can support the effort. Because really you are very central to what needs to happen. A lot of what we need behavioral change, and you are your leaders can help really make that happen. So that is what I will say. But there was a very specific question, whether when you are sleeping, should you also have your mask on? Yes.
Social distancing.
Yes. All right. So one of the things they've done is that the dormitories, the number of students per dormitory, is going to be very much reduced compared to what it was. So they are practicing social distancing. To sleep with the mask for a long time also has its health effects. So we are not having that they sleep with their mask on, just like we don't sleep with our mask on. The important thing is they should not be the type of overcrowding that sometimes we see in the schools. There was an issue about, are we really sure we are capturing all the deaths? And suggestion that maybe also showing the facility where the deaths are may add to the credibility of the data. That's a very good suggestion. The other point is about how do we capture those who do not go to the facilities. And as Dr. Nsiansari explained, there is a system to check that. But it is imaginable that there are some deaths that we are not capturing. The good thing in Ghana is it's very difficult to hide adult deaths. For children and babies, yes, but for adult deaths, it's very difficult to hide. But the message we get from you is that we need to do whatever we can do to make sure that there's a lot more transparency when it comes to not just the data on death, but the ground. That will improve the credibility and the trust in what we're doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, doctors, for this educative session. Honorable members, the House will remain suspended for 10 minutes as the special session comes to an end, and then we shall resume after seeing off our guests. Thank you very much, doctors. Honorable members, the House will remain suspended for 10 minutes.
Mr. Speaker.
Can every member resume his please? Honorable members, can you sit? Yes, honorable majority leader. Any indication, please?
Mr. Speaker, I think we've had some very useful discussions there. Our guest visitors, and we are all better informed by the circumstances of these times. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead that before we take our German synod, it may be useful to have a second conversation with the group that came here. So the time is reading 1:35 in the afternoon, and I guess, Mr. Speaker, we may need to take an adjournment because the Deputy Minister, who should, together with the Chairman of the Lands and Forestry Committee, be leading us in the creation of the land bill, is not here. And the Chairman, I'm told, is indisposed. So we may have to stand the constitution down until tomorrow at 10 in the forenoon. So I would want to move, Mr. Speaker, and I so do move, that this House adjourns until tomorrow 10 o'clock in the forenoon. I so move.
Speaker, I beg to second the motion for adjournment and to note that, yes, we should engage the COVID next time round, but Mr. Speaker, we should respect our protocols. There was no Minister for Health, no Deputy Minister for Health, no Director General. We just don't work that way. I think that, and then when they came, were as usual, in a rush. Honestly, next time, I wasn't happy. Because when I had my issues, they said leadership, I had to yield to my colleague. Then next time you want me to sit here, when you call it, I'll be reluctant. You want me to work, and we have issues. For instance, other elements being neglected in the instance of COVID. We need to hear what is happening because there are critical deaths at Kolebu and Komfanachi. But when this, I can understand the management of time. Maybe probably next time I can understand why Speaker was personally providing leadership. If it was you, some latitude. Because many of the issues I listed here, I had to abandon them because leaders, then he's leader on his own right. He is with me. I'm minority leader. His thinking and constituency is him. I have my own. So I'll plead with leader. When you engage us, let's be flexible. But next time they are coming, they shouldn't work on their own. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, we are opening our doors. Anybody who bypasses Minister or Director General and come and say, I want to address Parliament. So I support the motion for adjournment.
Speaker, I think this is a very important matter the minority leader has raised. I will need to clear the air. This meeting is not prior arranged. It was Dr. Kumbo Dr. Pambo, who provided us with some information yesterday, on account of which I said about same information that had been passed on to me by Dr. Nsiasari. We needed to invite him to corroborate what Dr. Pambo was telling us yesterday. So that information was meant for us as leaders. But then he also elected to come with Dr. The coordinator, Dr. Asamoah. So whilst we were having a discussion, Dr. Asamoah walked in. Amongst ourselves, then we decided that no, we shouldn't keep this information to ourselves. Let the rest of the members of parliament hear. So up to this, we have not arranged for them to be here. The Speaker, it explains why we had this emergency meeting. And in any event, Speaker, to be fair, even when we were coming, we thought that maybe briefing, about 10-15 minutes, they walk away. And when they came to sit, members had, then I said to them that no, we can't just have the briefing and walk away. Let's listen to the members. They may want some clarifications, which is what happened. So even though they themselves indicated that they had a program at 12 o'clock, we had to keep them here until after almost 1.5 hours when we had these discussions. So it's not anything that was arranged previously behind the curtain. It was just a decision that was taken on the spot. So the Speaker, I guess next time we shall have better elaborate program to invite them. And if we have to spend 2 hours interrogating issues, Speaker, I believe we can do that. And let nobody make it appear as if it's something that we arranged earlier on, which protocols we reach. Nothing of that sort of event. Speaker, thank you.
Honourable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. All in favour of the motion say aye. All against say no. The ayes have the motion is carried. This House is adjourned till Friday, the 26th of June 2020 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.